Hey guys, you're watching Creep Cinema, and I'm Mark Torriello. Today I'm going to be reviewing a more modern horror film from 2015 called It Follows. So the premise of this movie is basically this girl she's 19 years old, and she is kind of being followed around and haunted by this weird ghost demon person thing. It takes the form of a person, and it follows you and kind of stalks you out until it finally catches you and kills you. And the way that she kind of caught this was by having sex with a guy that had this demon as well, and he passed it on to her, and it's almost like an STD. So whoever you sleep with after you have this demon, the demon then gets passed on to that person and then the next person, and it's always going to go back down the line, killing you one by one, and it's just like unlike anything I've ever seen in a horror movie. So I absolutely love the concept. I love the idea. I think that the look of this movie, again, I love my aesthetics. The cinematography is just beautiful. The lighting has such a kind of like unworldly look to it. Definitely plays on a lot of the concepts of John Carpenter. And I think that this movie is just very unique, you know? It's definitely a conceptual idea for this story, and it definitely makes you think, and there's so many layers to this story. Like it plays on your fear of kind of like the whole STD thing, and then it also plays on your fears of something lurking in the dark watching you, and you don't know if it's going to get you or not. So I think on many levels, it can kind of hit a nerve for everyone. I think that the music by Disaster Piece is really such a essential part of this movie. It's all synthesizers, and it definitely, again, plays on that whole John Carpenter vibe with the electronic music. And I loved it so much, I even got the soundtrack, which I have behind me. I know I'm such a geek. But definitely, it's a good highlight to the movie. Another thing that I really liked about this movie is when you're watching it, you don't know what time frame it is, because you have the young adults that look and dress and act like people that are like 20 or 19 years old from this generation, but the sets are kind of decorated with furniture from like the 70s into the 80s, and there's TV sets that are analog, and every time they're watching movies, it's always something that's like an old 1950s like sci-fi film. Even the automobiles in the movie, I mean, I don't know anything about cars, but they have like old cars that are from like, I think the 70s, and then they have contemporary cars and all sorts of cars, you know, just from all different eras. And even one of the characters, she has this weird like seashell compact, but on the inside it looks like an iPhone, and she's like reading on it like on a Kindle. So I think this is all done not so much for like the story, because I don't think it adds any value to like the plot itself, but I really think it's designed to kind of like create a new universe with a whole different set of rules and explanations, unlike the reality that the viewer lives in. I also think that these things are sort of done to rewire your brain subconsciously and kind of develop a different way of looking or thinking when you're watching It Follows. And that kind of reminds me a lot of the ideas of like, you know, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. You know, there's so many philosophies and theories and fan fictions or whatever circulating out there that, you know, he did a lot of things subconsciously, like the layout of the hotel. It doesn't make logistical sense, and it's not something like the human eye would pick up on, but subconsciously your brain knows that the layout of the hotel isn't really like correct. And I think that the director of It Follows was trying to play on that whole idea. So I always love a good conceptual film, and I think that this movie is very strong conceptually. I think the story is very unique and something that's not been done before. So those are things that I really like about the movie. I also just think it's a beautiful work of art just to watch and to look at, and the soundtrack is amazing, and I just feel like the director really did create this fantasy universe. The things that I did not like about the movie were the characters. I did not really care about a single one of them. I didn't find them at all interesting. I didn't see them really evolve or develop, or I found their interactions to be kind of boring and weak. Another thing too is that I feel like certain scenes kind of dragged out. The movie had like a really strong start. It was very like fast, and they kind of went right into it. And then I was like, oh, this is great. But the pacing, it would just get like drawn out for like periods of time, and then something cool and amazing would happen, and then it would get drawn out again. So I think what they should have done is maybe cut the film down a little bit, or have scenes that were a little more interesting or added value to the story, um, to kind of like move it along. I also didn't like how the film ended. It's the sort of thing, like the few times that I have seen it, I feel very like just not satisfied from the ending. I don't know if it's because I want to know more about this like ghost demon thing that appears. Like, the people that it appears as are these victims that were killed from this entity in the past, or they just made up. So I just wish they played more with that and treated it a little more like a horror movie. But regardless, it doesn't mean I can't appreciate the rest of the film. So that being said, I think on a scale from 1 to 10, I'm going to have to give this movie a 7. And a 7's not bad. A 7's fair. It's definitely worth watching. There's a lot of elements in this that are very, very strong and unique. And like I said, if you want to see a different kind of horror movie that's going to put a lot of thoughts in your head and something that you can discuss, by all means, It Follows is the movie to watch. So feel free to comment below. I absolutely love talking about movies, and I would love to know what your theories are. Like, what would you do if you slept with someone and you caught the It Follows demon? I mean, I think I would just probably go to Vegas and get every male hooker I could get in Callboy or Sugar Daddy or whatever, and just have myself a party so that way I have all these people ahead of me in the It Follows lineup. So comment below. I would love to know what you would do. Thanks a bunch for watching Creep Cinema, and I'm Mark Torriello, and I'll be posting again sometime soon. See ya!